back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal government changes leadership of 26 parastatals, appoints new DG budget. House committee advocates more legislation to reduce corruption in procurement process. INEC bows to pressure, extends Yobe by-election date. And airstrikes on Médecins Sans Frontières Hospital leave 7 people dead in northern Syria. Just to quickly remind you that all our top stories are on our website, channelstv.com, and on youtube.com/channelsweb. And do visit m.channelstv.com to view us live on your mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. And we urge you to interact with the Eyewitness feature in the Channels TV app on the Android, iOS and Windows platforms. If you have pictures or videos to share with us, tap the app on your device, swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu and follow the instructions.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
All right, we can now share with you some of those pictures that were sent to our Eyewitness portal. And let's begin with this one from Oyo State showing a child with leg cuffs. Our Eyewitness reporter says he and another child escaped from a religious school where their parents had taken them against their will to attend a formal school. He wants the authorities to enforce laws to protect the rights of children, especially the right to education. Our next photo is from Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, showing people whom our Eyewitness reporters say are students scrambling for space on a truck. And this photo from Port Harcourt, the River State capital, shows a badly loaded bus and other buses and the alleged owners of the goods. Our Eyewitness reporter wants our roads to be made safe and sanctions imposed where necessary. Finally, we have this one from Gusau in Zamfara State showing what's left of a building which our Eyewitness reporter says belonged to the Nigerian Christian Corpus Fellowship. He alleges due process was not followed in the demolition.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Thanks a lot for all your photos, and do continue to tell us what's happening around you. Now, the federal government has announced the sack of 26 chief executives of parastatals and agencies of government. 6 of the affected agencies are under the Ministry of Information, and these are the Nigerian Television Authority, the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, and the Voice of Nigeria. Others are the News Agency of Nigeria, the National Orientation Agency, and the National Broadcasting Commission. Also affected are the Petroleum Technology Development Fund, Nigeria Railway Corporation, the Bureau of Public Procurement, and the Bureau of Public Enterprises. Others include the Standards Organization of Nigeria, the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, the Bank of Industry, and the National Center for Women Development. In a statement by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Babachir Lawal, the President thanked the outgoing chief executives for their invaluable service to the nation and wished them well in their future endeavors. It's been the day of appointments as the President, Muhammadu Buhari, has appointed the former lawmaker, Abike Dabiri Erewa, as his Senior Special Assistant on Foreign Affairs and the Diaspora. Mrs. Dabiri Erewa was the chair of the House Committee on Diaspora Affairs in the 7th Assembly, and that was in the House of Representatives. Before her foray into politics, Mrs. Dabiri Erewa was a seasoned journalist. We cross over to Abuja now, and here's Linda Akigbe. Hey, Linda.
Hello, Ijoma, and welcome to the nation's capital. The Supreme Court has explained why it set aside the judgment of the Akwa Ibom State Governorship Election Tribunal and that of the Appellate Court in a petition filed by the All Progressives Congress and its candidate, Mr. Umana. The lead judgment delivered by Justice Sentus Weze explains that the petitioner made allegations of criminal acts but could not prove it beyond reasonable doubt. Our correspondent Amako Kafo reports.
After the Supreme Court delivered judgment in favor of Governor Emmanuel Udom of Akwa Ibom State, The court has given its reasons for setting aside the judgment of the trial tribunal and the appeal court in the petition filed by the All Progressive Congress candidate Mr. Umana challenging the April 2015 governorship elections. Justice Santos Weze, who delivered the lead judgment and was supported by the members of the 7-man panel, held that the decisions of the lower court were wrong in law. The court also held that there was a wrong reliance on petitioner witness number 48 by the lower court to decide that there was disenfranchisement of voters in 18 of the 32 local governments in Akwa Ibom State, even though the said witness admitted that he was not at his polling unit at the time of the polls. The court also held that the overgeneralization that there was anarchy in Akwa Ibom State during the polls was wrong, because the Nigerian police report of the polls largely contradicted that of the witnesses, which was relied upon by the court. Justice Weze held that the two lower courts metamorphosed into an inquisitory forum shopping for skirmishes, even though there was no demonstration in court. As expected, reaction to the reasons by the court were mixed.
Reasons that the Supreme Court has given for upholding the appeals, they are not different from what we had mentioned, what we had adumbrated and argued before the tribunal. It's exactly the same issues that we raised before the tribunal. It's exactly the same issues that we raised before the Court of Appeal. And that means we were right from the word go.
As a final court, we must agree with their judgment, even though we are not happy with the judgment.
Unit by unit has been established as a method of proving irregularities or non-compliance and all that. Nothing in this matter has been decided as a fresh issue, except maybe as it relates to the card reader. Everything that the Supreme Court has decided is a mere restatement of all the decisions that have been given.
The reason adduced by the court has allowed parties appreciate the position taken by the court a week ago. It has also brought to an end litigations concerning the April 2015 governorship elections in Akwa Ibom State. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is asking the Supreme Court to clarify the political status of Senators Anduba, Stella Udwa, and other Anambra federal lawmakers of the People's Democratic Party. This follows the Apex Court's recognition of the list of candidates originally submitted by the Ejike Ogwebego-led State Executive Committee of the party. A team of lawyers led by Mr. Adigboyega Awomolo San filed a motion on notice dated February 5th, 2016, asking the electoral body to clarify 6 issues. INEC says it is confused on the step to follow and is asking the Apex Court to review its judgment in the interest of justice. A panel of Supreme Court justices had on January 29th affirmed the Federal High Court's judgment, which held that only the Ogwebego-led state PDP executive could organize the party's primaries in Anambra State. No date has been fixed for hearing of the motion. Meanwhile, some candidates belonging to the Ejike Ogwebego faction of the Anambra PDP leadership are asking INEC to issue them certificates of return. Some of the candidates at a press conference in Abuja, the nation's capital, says there's no ambiguity in the Supreme Court's judgment and the umpire does not need to go to the Supreme Court for any clarification.
The issue of going for clarification is a non-starter. Because how can you say you are the candidate? How can you say you are representing Anambra State? Why the court of law has upheld that the way you came in is illegal cannot be used for anything. The judgment of the Supreme Court must be obeyed. INEC needs to do the needful. We do not understand why our certificates of return has not been issued to us.
Judgment that we obtained from the Apex Court is very clear. It is very clear because he went ahead to uphold the judgment that came from Justice Chukwu of the lower court. There are processes of an election, which you well know. We went through it. We went through the primaries. We went through the campaign. and we went to Supreme Court. And because we went to the Supreme Court, our name, in inverted comma, was still there. And the Supreme Court did not give their judgment until the 29th of January and gave us the judgment.
Well done. Well done.
So anybody saying we did not go for election is not understanding it very well.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has tendered some documents as exhibits before the Federal High Court in the case of criminal diversion of state funds brought against former Benue State Governor Mr. Gabriel Suswam, along with his Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Omadachi Okolobia. Mr. Suswam is facing trial for alleged diversion of 3.1 billion naira for private use. The documents were tendered through the witness, Mrs. Pt.2, who is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Benue Investment and Property Company Limited. They include a letter written by the EFCC to the Corporate Affairs Commission requesting for the certificate of incorporation of the company. She told the court that the former governor gave approval for the sale of shares belonging to the Benue State government in some blue-chip companies. Mrs. Pt.2 told the court that she did not know that one of the accounts into which proceeds of some shares were remitted was owned by a private company, since the account numbers were given to her by the Commissioner for Finance. Justice Ahmed Mohammed has adjourned the case to tomorrow to enable the defense counsel cross-examine the witness. Now, in the face of the country's dwindling resources, Senate President Bukola Saraki is advocating and prioritizing government projects scattered across the country with funds allocated to the most important ones. During an inspection of the permanent site for the National Institute for Legislative Studies, NILS, in Abuja, Senator Saraki said the challenge of inadequate funds had slowed down the completion of the project. He promised that the National Assembly would look for the most practicable strategy to ensure that the project is completed. Construction work on the National Institute for Legislative Studies was suspended in 2015 because of inadequate funds.
It is a good project. The issue now is funds and priority. Is this a priority? Should this be a priority? What should be a priority? Those are the issues that we can't decide here. We need to go back and say, like many things, there are many good projects around the country. The question is for us to prioritize based on what we have. That we need it, I guess we do need it. Can we ever afford it? Yeah, we've got to look at that. Yeah.
Nasarawa State Governor Dango Almakura has earmarked lands to support federal government's mass housing scheme initiative. Speaking after visiting the Nasarawa Geographic Information System office in Karo local government area of Nasarawa State, north-central Nigeria, and an aerial survey of the proposed land, the governor assures of collaborating with the federal government to ensure the housing deficit in the country is reduced. The governor also visited the ongoing Kabayi Road to ascertain the level of work. He's confident that the road will be completed before the end of February, and the 7-kilometer road will reduce the gridlock on the Maraba-Karo highway.
And I have discovered that if we embark vigorously on utilization of the lands that we have and properly title them, survey them, plan them, in line with the master plan already done by the state through NIGIS, we shall be able to access tremendous amount of revenue. But not until some other aspect of jobs are done. That is why we have taken this aerial survey of all the areas that are available for this purpose. And again, there is this intention by the federal government to expand the scope of the provision of mass housing in various states, especially those that are within the federal capital territory, given the enormous demand for houses by low and middle class citizens. And we have found that Nasarawa State can salvage this situation
The Senate has summoned construction firm Julius Berger to explain the poor handling of work on the permanent site of the Vice President's residence. The Senate Committee on Federal Capital Territory, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Federal Capital Territory, Senator Dino Malayi, gave the directive during an oversight inspection of the uncompleted residence of the Vice President, as well as some other construction work in the capital city. Senator Malayi expressed dissatisfaction with the level of work done on the Vice President's residence and also voiced his displeasure over what he says is a high cost for the construction of a new 3-bedroom flat for the ADC to the Vice President. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Joma.
Thanks a lot, Linda, from the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, when the news at 10 returns, the president of the stock exchange talks about the state of the markets and more on Business News. Do join us again.